Thank you very much, Christiana, and thank you, Sarah, and thank you, attendees, for this event on the Orinoco Flows. The Orinoco Flows community, its mission statement is to connect women and their children and families to their child star element. That is the focus. That focus arises from who we are from the time we're born. All ancient societies speak about us coming from the stars and that that life began from the stars. Whichever continent you look at, whatever civilization you look at, when you go back to the origins of us, it speaks about that. And then also doulas, midwives, psychics have mentioned that at that birth experience, there's a star, there's a vortex that surrounds the birth. So this is what I'm talking about with the child star element. And before we get into the evening and my chat with Reeta and discovering what she has to share with us, I want to spend a few minutes with us having a meditation. Because this whole process is really an inner process rather than something about acquiring something on the outside. It's really about a deeper connection that you are cultivating when you start interacting with your child star. In fact, it is at the core of your subconscious mind. So let's take a few minutes, and wherever you are, where you're sitting, I invite you to have a sense of letting go of the back of your navel. Just in your imagination, no willpower, just a sense of creating a sense of more space at the back of your navel. As we all know, our navel is that link that we have had with our mother, and that has a whole link straight along into your ancestral line. We're not here to talk about that this evening, but that is being acknowledged by that sense of just giving the back of your navel that sense of space. Then also in your imagination, have a sense of a softness in the arches of your feet. So there's a feeling of feeling comfortable where you're sitting, where you are as you listen to me, as we move now in our imagination to the Orinoco River. We are there now at the origin of the Orinoco, at the spring, where the water comes up there in Venezuela to start the beginning of the Orinoco. And whilst there, I invite you to have a feeling of letting go. Letting go of your concerns, letting go of your issues, letting go of these challenges that we all have in life. A sense of you in the presence now of a river that carries a healing presence. It has been in existence for thousands upon thousands upon thousands of years, and it has nourished all that have been around its water, just carried life. And here now, it is doing the same for us as we allow ourselves to be present at the origins of the Orinoco River. I have connections directly into this as it's part of my ancestral line. And as I've done this research and study over the last 4 decades, more and more of this has been revealed. So hence, there's an emotional and a spiritual connection that is very much resides there. And that level of awareness about the child star has been very much awakened from my childhood, although it was never spoken about like that. And yes, as that letting go occurs, a new spaciousness opens in your heart. A sense of ease flows along your spinal cord. A sense of smoothness of breath, calmness of mind. And whatever it is or however it is that you're feeling that there is that bit of discomfort, bit of concern, I invite you to let go. I invite you to allow the energy of the Orinoco to heal you, to be in that process of dissolving those concerns and bringing you more into that feel-good factor of who you are, being alive, being present, engaging with what life has in front of you. As you start feeling a deeper connection with your subconscious mind and your child star. You may not know what it is right now, but being here, you will discover, and we will talk about these things as the community grows and we share deeper and deeper experiences about it. Let's just stay in the silence with that river, with that energy, with that healing, and give yourself permission to allow a healing experience to happen for you. As that has happened in our previous episodes for some people in their attendance to the Orinoco Flows community. Remain with that softness of your breathing. Remain with that spaciousness at the back of your navel. Remain with that sense of comfort in the arches of your feet. As I invite you to return to wherever you are now, for us to continue our evening as I chat with Reeta and engage with you who are present here this evening. Thank you very much. Any comments from anybody? Any feedback from anyone before we begin our chat?
I can say something
For
that
sure.
I have, and I felt so very much energy in the arch of the feet, and it was connected with the head. For the strange, it was like that. The rest of the body doesn't exist. Only head and feet was connected, and then the sense that all the things. The Orinoco flow can take all my problems and like to tell me, don't worry, I take care about of it, and don't think about nothing.
Okay.
That's the senses. So
Thanks for sharing. Thanks for how that
thank
was
you.
for you. Yeah, my pleasure. Anybody else before I start chatting with Reeta? No? Okay. Reeta, thanks for being here. Thanks for your willingness to share with us your experiences with the child star. And I invite you to tell us about yourself. We have mentioned that you're a homeopath and you have a school, and a big part of your childhood was in Africa and Ethiopia. between 11 years of age and 16. So there's a lot for us to share and hear about here this evening. So begin where you wish to begin, Reeta.
Thank you, Rex. It's lovely to be here at the Orinoco Flow community. First of all, I want to say that I've had a flu, so if I start coughing, don't mind. It's just because when I talk. So first of all, about the meditation we did, I also felt this surrender. And it was a really beautiful way to start the evening. So thank you so much for that.
My pleasure.
So I have been in the world of 9-star key, I think from about 1998, when my second son was born. That's about the time when I started studying shiatsu. So I have been doing shiatsu ever since, and I've been studying with Rex and other teachers. And we actually do have a shiatsu school in Finland now, the Shiatsu School Helsinki. I also am a homeopath, and I have a homeopathy school as well. And what is really dear to me is births, children, and because I have 4 children myself, and I gave birth to all of them in water, except my first one, they wanted to take me out, even though I could have delivered, but because I was a young mother giving birth for the first time. So I loved the introduction of the water babies, because I really felt so connected. I just had a bath before this, and I felt like I wanted to, and I'm still really hot from the bath. It was really hot and it was overflowing. So I really felt at the essence of the yin energy to come here and talk about the child star.
Thank you, Reeta. But within that, you also have the highs and the lows and the challenges that went on for you, and the aspect of your son, Amadeus, your late son. If we can you share about that, how that was for you and what went on in that whole experience about his life? And I will add things about that also as regards his star patterns and whatever, but please share with us, because that is a very touching story that you have shared with me, and I think it will inspire many mothers, many of us, as regards some of the challenges at times we have to face in life, and how ways of understanding the energetics of a situation can create new spaciousness and also blessings, although can be very challenging.
So Amadeus was my first son, born in 1995. And when I got pregnant with him, I was supposed to become a lawyer and go to the United States and study and all of these things. And when he came into me, it was like a light striking me, and I fell. And my cousin said, like, "You're pregnant." And I said, "I cannot be, But I was. And from that moment on, I went to maternal yoga. I was 21 years old. And I knew that, let's admit one person in. So I knew that my life had changed completely, that I had a big teacher. And when he was 5 months old, I started studying homeopathy. So I changed the way of my life completely. And I went to alternative birth. I became a birth worker with the first birth, and, but then when he was little, I knew he was a different kind of a child. I couldn't connect with him completely. And I must say that for 24.5 years, I studied everything to help him. So he was my biggest teacher because he taught me everything I know. So when he was 13, well, let's say a little bit earlier, when he was younger, he was diagnosed with Asperger's, and, he was this kind of child that always said no to me, whatever I tried. So as a mother, I felt that I don't know how to be his mother. He doesn't want to sit on my lap. Whatever I try never goes well. If I had not had the other children, I would have thought I'm the crappiest mother on earth. And mothering was really My child star is number 2. Mothering was my thing. Anyways, but then when he was 13 and a half, he went into psychosis and he was diagnosed with bipolar. And after that, it was a big struggle to keep him alive for 11 years. So I did everything. And then he died 3 years ago.
Okay, can we just slow that down a little bit, Reeta, because some of this is that powerful. And I know for many women, at times with some very challenging situations with their children or the frustrations that they face at times, a lot of what you're sharing now, you have lived that, and there's a sort of, how best to put it, there's a wisdom that you're carrying about talking about it that I just want to acknowledge as regards that, because oftentimes when these difficult experiences face mothers, a depression can start, or many other sorts of conflicts can go on for them as regards their sense of inadequacy about being a mother. And at times there's another dynamics that has, in a way, nothing to do with them, but who that child is and the child's journey in this life, and how that can be very different to how the mother is orientated or what she's been exposed to or things like that. I just want to mention that as regards this, because I know at times some of these stories that mothers go through is just a dent. And it's like, well, there's no light here. But there's a lot of light in these things if we can listen at a deeper level and realize that there's a bigger picture to look at. So thanks for giving me this opportunity to just slow it down a little bit, Reeta, because I think this has a lot of these aspects in the birth experience and with mothers is a core part of what Orinoco Flows is about. This is at the basis of it, because these kinds of challenges are creating so much depression, so much frustration, and so many kinds of spin-outs as regards psychological issues, that a lot of things can be handled in a way of bringing a bigger canvas to look at what this is really about. And that capacity is available at the Orinoco Flows, connecting with your child star. I'm not exaggerating with that. That is really how it is. And thanks for just being here. Yes, I do get emotional about this. There's no question about that. I put my hands up, but that's my passion, this whole aspect of this work. Go ahead, Reeta. Or maybe I don't know if Cristiano or somebody else wants to say something before we continue.
Oh, I do. I just, Reeta, acknowledging, I'm holding my heart, and I'm glad that Rex called a pause. So much of what you said resonates with me as a mother, and I just needed to ground a little. Thank you, Rex. I love hearing that there's a bigger canvas. So I'm really looking forward to hearing what more you have to say.
Sure. No, thank you. No, I mean, I get, as you're talking, I could feel the waves just happening as regards what we are listening to. So I just felt, hold on, these waves are very powerful. Let's kind of take a little break to kind of experience it a bit and, take another breath of fresh air. Anyway, thanks for giving me that opportunity to interrupt you, Reeta, and please continue.
So I must say that I have talked a lot about this and I've had a lot of help. So, for me to be able to talk about it kind of freely, and it's only 3 years that he left, is because 11 years was hell before he left. I mean, really trying to keep him alive. He was always missing and he was doing all the things children shouldn't do. And I was a single parent to 4 children. So I had 3 other children as well. So, and because when he left, or let's say a week before he left, I feel he got healed, he got enlightened, and I got to have 3 days with an enlightened being. He finally said yes to me. He said yes to everything I suggested. And I had given him a homeopathic dose of kryptonite 10 mg, and I believe it did something. Because before that, I was, he got all the remedies in the world, and he got all the treatments in the world naturally. So when he left, it was a surprise. Even he told me that he's going to leave. So I knew he was leaving. But of course, you never believe it until it happens. And it wasn't a suicide. He died with practically nothing on his blood. So I feel, because he left on the night of the Dia de los Muertos, when the veil is thin, he just transported to another dimension. And because he called himself Coco, which is, the Disney movie, Dia de los Muertos.
Okay,
And
just slow some of this down, please, Rita, if you may, because there are a lot of different details here with like key links, energetic links in the experience. So you were mentioning like 3 days before there was some shift that went on. Can you kind of give a few more details about how that was, or how you recognized it, or did that occur, please?
so he left on a Sunday morning, and the Sunday before, a week before, I gave him the kryptonite. And what I noticed on Monday is that I felt that there's a huge shift in him. And the shift was that he was quiet. He was very agitated before. He couldn't sit for even 2 minutes. He wanted to show me all the movies that he wanted to show. And he was looking at me with very gentle eyes from above, with a special smile that I had never seen before. It was like a smile, Mom, I know. And he was very tender, and he told me how much he loves me. And then he said, I can still save a few souls, but I cannot save myself anymore. So on a Wednesday, he left to his father's place. And then after that, I never saw him again.
Okay.
So those 3 days were very special.
Okay. And you spoke about him, quote unquote, saving others, but not himself. Can you share a bit about what that was or how that was? Oh, sorry, Rita. Maybe there are some things somebody wanted to say, or some questions or something else before we move on. Christiana, you had something you wanted to say, or?
No, and I think the chat is quiet now.
Okay, all right,
Good.
okay, yes.
So
Yeah, the aspect about his healing others, but not himself. If you could, share about what that was or how that manifested.
So he used to talk to the dead. That was his superpower. So, because he spent so much time in the mental hospital, and always somebody died from there. So he would take contact with them and bring the messages. So that was one of his ways of saving. Plus, he would give everything. He would give his shoes if you asked him. So he was the kind of like a very generous person. He felt that he's here for other people, not for himself.
Okay. And he carried the star patterns of the 88 Earth, is that correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. The defining of his life through that would be a bit of a distortion on my side, although there are some salient points around it that does link to it. But once somebody moves into the area of psychosis, the distinction that goes on within their subconscious mind and different things, it's a different package. You can't really look at plugging that in, although there are aspects of it that would be there. So the 8 Earth child's star quality would have a sense of, things like, like the elderly people or people passing on or the dying or whatever. That is a kind of a comfort zone for 8 Earth child as regards, older people or things from the past. That is part of how the 8 Earth child star would have easy connections. But there are other aspects when one has a psychosis, this is something entirely very different. That there's a disconnection that happens then. I just want to be clear about that, rather than some people looking to put some of the information around child star around such situations. Anyway, sorry, go ahead. So please allow me. I know I'm spinning off in other areas, but I'm just sharing. I realize some of it is, hasn't been spoken about before here, or I don't think I taught some of these things, but I'm just sharing, yes, 4 decades of experience of looking at this with all kinds of situations. So go ahead, Reeta, please.
So to finish the story, and then I'll get to somebody was asking about the child stars. So then when he left, I was actually at a dance, healing dance the whole weekend, which was about letting go, about metal element, letting go. So I danced him away. I didn't know he was dead, but I had a weekend like this, which helped me enormously, because when I got the news, I knew that I had already been prepared for letting go. But of course, it was the biggest letting go of my life, because he was my teacher, he was my light, he was my Amadeus, the beloved of God. So on the 3rd day that he had died, I went to see him. And it was the most beautiful thing I've ever seen in my life. I wanted to see his chest. He had long dreadlocks. And, the chest was the tree of life. It was green, turquoise, all the colors. And I knew he had left with his heart so open. And it gave me so much peace, because I knew he didn't suffer. And at the same time, I kind of realized that I didn't know him when he was here. He was so much bigger than I knew. I tried to make him smaller and to obey me. And having the child star 8, which is the mountain, kind of stuck inside the mountain, I kind of tried to mold him into something else than he was, because I didn't see him. I didn't see his light. I saw it, of course, but I truly didn't see it. And understanding the child star 8, which Rex can talk about a little bit more, made me understand so well that, because I knew about it, of course, I counted when he was smaller, but I didn't have the consciousness, we just had a few workshops about it. He was just what he was. He was always only true to himself, and of course, helping other people. But, there's something that cannot be shaken about the 8. And maybe you want to tell about that a little bit more.
Okay.
Well, and why you're laughing about the unshakable 8. We did have, just to hold in your framing of this, a clarification, because you mentioned that he's a double earth pattern. And I put in the chat 8 adult and 8 earth child star. I did it again, but Reeta clarified that he's a 5 earth and an 8 earth child. So maybe you can just clarify for everyone as you're framing this about the 5 earth and the neutrality.
Okay, all right. Before I do that, the unshakable aspect about the 8 earth, once the 8 earth has chosen something or decided about a path, uncompromising. Okay, and that's the story of my life. So when the mutiny happened, I was arrested and whatever. I was totally defiant in the court-martial about what was going on or whatever. That was, unshakable. But anyhow, I'm not here to talk about that, although Reeta popped that in. The 5 earth in the 9 star key system, traditionally, they link it with the different, whichever pattern that the person is born with the other star, they just connect them. My experience and my research is that the 5 earth hasn't, well, it's stated very clearly, there's no gender with the 5 earth. So in other words, there's a polarity that it is looking at, and it carries a certain spiral, in my view, a bit different than the other child stats. I can't prove this. It's just my sense about it. And if you look at 5 Earth years, which this year is one of them, it has a kind of a spiral where certain things can really happen very suddenly or shift very differently than what you may have expected it. So it has this capacity that it isn't settled, that it's looking for, like, quote unquote, like a partner or something to link to. So there's that part about the 5 Earth, that's my observation about it. Then, well, part of the experience also that anchored me or that pointed me into the 5 Earth discovery was an embarrassing situation that my daughter had me in on an airplane flying from London to Paris, where we were chatting. She was chatting to this lady who was on the same seat, next to her. I was by the window. And she was chatting to the lady and asking what she did. And then my daughter was telling her what, the school she was going to and all of that. And then she dropped this line on the lady. She said, but by the way, I mean, if you give my daddy your birthday, he can tell you a lot of things about yourself and especially your health. So here it is. We're going on holiday. I am just there on the plane and I'm in this situation. So anyway, the lady took the challenge and dropped it. And then I said her pattern was the one of, she was a 5 and a 7. That was the pattern. So then I started to say things about her lungs and things about her skin and all of these kinds of things went on for her. And the lady said defiantly, no, that is not so for me. So, and my daughter looked at me like, like, what? Like, how could this be? I mean, So I was then thrown in the spot that I had to pull the rabbits out of the bag in this situation. And so then it just spun in my head, okay, I put the 2. Somehow it just came to me, let's go with it. I hadn't studied it this way before, but I just put the 2 in the center with the 7. I knew the 7 was feminine star. So then I told the lady, I said, so then you have issues with your lower back and challenges with your sleep when you have a lot of stress going on. She said, yes, very true. Very, very true. So that was the kind of aha moment for me. So then I looked at it historically, and I looked at Mahatma Gandhi, who's a 5'4". So that will kind of show he's a person, and he's very upset. He expresses rage. That is not so. He expresses sadness. When the Hindus and Muslims started a fight, he went on a fast and he was very sad and depressed. I looked at Muhammad Ali. Muhammad Ali is a 5'9", so panic is his disturbing emotion. That is not so. Anger it is, what's my name, Muhammad Ali, and whatever. So it's a lot of anger. So a lot of, and I listed a lot of that in my first book. And nobody in the 9-star key fraternity globally has challenged that. And I've put it out there to them all the time, and nobody wants it to say, well, hey, they haven't. Okay, so that is it. But historically, it is listed that way. And part of it, I have to come back to my childhood. My father had a mantra that he gave me very early in life. I was around 10 when he dropped it on me. I told him something and he says, Rex, you believe that? And you believe that has been always a question that has remained with me when I read anything. You believe that? So, and when that experience with this lady happened on the thing, well, I pulled it out of the thing, but then I started to look and I saw how it isn't. There's another way of looking at it. And so this is how the 5 Earth is. Her son, Amadeus, the 8 Earth is an adult, is a masculine child star. So the 5 then joins a similar pattern. So it becomes a double 8 Earth. If it was a woman with an 8, it would still be a double 8. It doesn't matter about the gender of the individual. So there's that pattern. So that's a double 8 Earth. Was I talking to myself, or was it? Because I've been told at times I talk to myself and I need a translator. So any comments from anybody? Or
No comments in the chat yet, Rex. We're just
okay.
that was good tangent that you went on with the 8 Earth. And I'm sure Rita has more to share.
Sure.
Curious.
Okay. Yes, Rita, go ahead. I'm listening to what's next that you want to talk about from that.
I think when I heard that, you know, he's born 1995, the year of the 5, that was quite soothing for me, because we know them as revolutionary and we know them as not obeying to rules and as being a little bit different. At least all the 5s that I know are pretty unique in what they do, and the people that you talked about also. And maybe this revolutionary kind of, and maybe it is the 8 too, I don't know what it is, but but I felt the 5, whatever I've learned or read about the 5, it did resonate, and definitely the 8 as well. So yeah.
And okay, and some of what you're sharing, or the capacity that you have for looking at, you know, the experience of dying and the insights you have, my sense, you haven't said that, but is that, you know, you were in Ethiopia from around the time you were about 11 years of age till you were 16. How did that impact you? I mean, because I think you were there when the civil war was going on in Ethiopia.
Well,
will you be willing to talk about that? Or?
Yes, I can. Yes. So actually, in the 70s, we lived in Tanzania already. So Africa was kind of familiar to me. And then Ethiopia, going there as an 11-year-old from the middle of Finland, you know, from practically nowhere. I didn't know the language. I was called the Finnish girl who didn't speak a word. And I'm really talkative and I'm really outgoing. So on my 6th grade, I didn't speak a word. But like we talked with Rex a couple of days ago, my child star is number 2, which I said earlier. And food is really important. And we found out my mother's child star is a number 2 as well. So her way of showing love was always food. She's a nutritionist. And I had a really traumatic experience in Ethiopia. It was the time of Live Aid. So we had a field trip and I was 11 and we had to give food. Yes, I'm a 2 child star. We had to give food to the beggars, to the starving people. And we could give only 1 bread and it was full of ants. And I had just come from Finland. And I saw a child being breastfed and die in front of my eyes. And that impacted really strongly the fact that when I had my children, I felt that I have to breastfeed because otherwise they die. I did want to breastfeed too, but for example, my 2nd son, he didn't want to breastfeed and I forced him for 8 months. Because he had stomach problems. So I thought, what else can I give him? But luckily I was treated homeopathically. So I understood, because I actually didn't remember this happened to me until I had my 2nd son. So I couldn't remember it with my 1st son yet. Of course, from the milk, that is really traumatic, you know, to bring forward.
Okay, just can I interrupt you here a bit? So am I hearing then that the experience when you were 11 years of age, with that trauma of what you saw with the baby dying, had an impact upon you as regards some challenges that then you faced with your second son? Or am I projecting that?
Well, with the breastfeeding, otherwise everything was good, but there was something that he didn't want to breastfeed. And I felt that he's going to die, if I don't breastfeed. And I breastfed, like, for example, my third son for a long time, and there was no problems anymore. But maybe he brought it up, and I remembered that.
Okay, hold on a second, please, Reeta. This part, because when I hear these types of stories, like in a consultation with a client, with a mother or parent or whatever, I sort of hold that, because at times those things have dots in it that relates to some of the experiences that they're having to deal with now. Mm. And to sort of make a shift energetically around that at times can have an impact, a wave-like impact, not only with that child or with that situation, that within the whole family situation. I'm just mentioning, I'm highlighting some of these things because at times in my work, some people ask, like, are you psychic? I'm not, but I pick up on things quite quickly. But it's like, these are the kind of dots that I kind of look at as regards, well, what surrounds that, and then look at the time it happened and ways of then having that resolved. So anyhow, so I'm just kind of, I guess I'm in a teaching situation here this evening, I realize, because I'm kind of pinpointing ways that I work with these kinds of challenges, or when I hear these kinds of things, how I look at it, or how I then would interact or stop and ask questions. Comments from anybody? Or
yeah, Rex, would it be okay if I just share the image of the star patterns just while you're in this teaching moment, so we can just
yeah, sure,
relationship?
certainly. Mm-hmm.
Okay, because one of the things, hopefully people can see this,
mm-hmm.
That Reeta mentioned that she's a 2
mm-hmm.
child star, and her son was an 8 Earth
mm-hmm.
child star, and you as well, and
mm-hmm.
these both hold the Earth element.
Mm-hmm.
But in this teaching moment that you have in resolving trauma, what your advice or guidance that you gave Reeta, and in your relationship the two of you had, like, around nourishing her own child star, maybe using this story of what happened in Africa or even with her son. I'm curious.
Okay, this particular story, I heard about it I heard about it before, I think a while back, but it didn't register, but I really heard about it yesterday when we were chatting. But I didn't get into any quote unquote resolving or whatever, but as she's sharing some details here, how she's sharing it, that with the second child, the breastfeeding was difficult. He didn't want to breastfeed. She felt all that. I was hearing some, how best to put it? I was hearing a kind of a narrative that surrounded some of the trauma from what went on in Ethiopia. I'm not saying it did, but I was hearing some of that aspect. So then that's why I stopped, but just point out that I would look at this as regards something, some way of exploring that that kind of element of struggle or difficulty in the relationship that may have some shadows from that experience from in Ethiopia. At times, okay, and at times just talking about it or bringing some clarity about it is 50% of dealing with dissolving it. Because it's like you're starting to make it kind of present in a way that the person can have their hands on it, or in a way to see it outside of themselves, because I am talking about it, so it's no longer, it's like part of the narrative to look at. So that at times just gives them a sort of a sense of a fresh breath, or as something that the mother can be like, Ah, okay. I never realized that it could be a burden. Wow, okay. And he did. Okay. Yeah, and it feels lighter as he has spoken about it. So some of these things can be just already clearing up a large part of the trauma just by that.
Well, I was struck, Rita, by what you said. You mentioned a dance before, or as your son was passing that weekend, you were at a dance and you mentioned metal element. And I'm just noticing here, just on the chart where metal sits next to earth. And you were saying like letting go. I didn't know if maybe you could elaborate for us in the audience with what you meant by that.
Yeah. So the feeling, the emotion of metal element is letting go. And because it was November, and November is a season, it's the autumn time, which is about letting go. And so that weekend was about, because it was based on Chinese medicine. It was a dance, healing dance program based on, and it happened to be metal element, and it happened to be that we were dancing that metal element. And during that dance, we really went deep into the art of letting go. So, you know, I was asking myself, if I didn't have children, if I didn't have my career, if I didn't have anything, who would I be? And that was my whole weekend. And really not knowing that on Monday morning, I'm going to hear that my son is dead. So I think the universe was carrying me for being in this.
Thank you, Reeta.
Yeah.
Do people get that? I mean, what she's talking about? I mean, the whole aspect, okay, to be, at times people say I'm a bit too blunt, but okay. The simplicity of the metal element being about letting go. When we breathe in, we have to breathe out. So that's letting go. The other aspect of the metal is the colon, the large intestine. When we have a good poo, that is letting go. So the metal element is about letting go. I mean, that's how they, you know, because I know at times people like to make things very esoteric. I mean, at times it's very basic and very just common sense, just simplicity rather than, yeah, because some people make some of these things so esoteric and so whatever, and it's just so down to earth and so just practical. So anyhow. Sorry, somebody wanted to say something, or shall we go ahead, or what's?
Well, I'll just do a time check here since it's 10 till the hour. And I know that we have a person in the audience, I don't, with her star pattern that we are going to do a little reading with just after the hour.
Sure.
And I don't know if you let Rita know her child star. But it would just be interesting to hear your input when we get there, Rita.
Okay. Okay. You wanted to share some more, Rita, or to move to some other observations you have with your children, or where you want to go, or where are you now from all that we have spoken about?
Well, one thing that I do want to say about Africa is that it is quite normal that people die over there. So, you know, seeing that in your life, not only this kind, but also on the streets and everywhere, maybe made it, you know, more normal for me to face death, you know. And having worked so much with births, because I go to births as a homeopath, I'm a maternal yoga instructor also. Now that my son died, he also made me a death doula. So, you know, it is actually my best friend now, because it's the best way that I can connect to my son, because he's working with me all the time. But he just couldn't work here on this. He's working from another mountain now. And so on. Yes, the other children. So my second one, the child star, was it a 7? Do you remember? Rex?
Okay, sorry.
I don't know.
Before
I
we
was just thinking
go
about the
there,
time. Yeah.
okay, before we go there, because something in chatting with Rita yesterday, when she was sharing about Amadeus and she was speaking about the dying, and then she mentioned something about a dying or death doula. And I sort of vaguely heard that before, but never kind of registered. And then I shared with her about my father, because my father wasn't a religious person, but he went to so many funerals. He would dress in black, you know, on afternoons, and some weeks he would go at least one, sometimes 2 funerals in a week. And he would come back in the morning around 4 or 5 in the morning from the wake, and then he would get up and go to work at 8 o'clock. And he had very little to say about it, except, you bury spirit with spirit, which meant that they drank alcohol and things. And then that was one line, but there was nothing else that was, and I start to realize, hold on, he's a death doula. Because what was he doing in all these funerals? Because he wasn't a religious man. And I talk about, some years my father would have gone to easily 40 funerals, which had nothing to do with a relative, but just people he knew that he would have gone to. And yes, my father is very much around in my life, no question about it. There are so many different situations when I could just feel his presence, where he shows up with certain symbols, no question about it. And part of this event about Orinoco flows is that his mother was from the Orinoco. So this is one of the beautiful things about this community, is that in our sharing and in our chatting, we learn so much about ourselves. And I am learning so much more about the child star from doing this. So thank you, Rita.
There was a question here.
Okay.
Yes, Reeta, as well. I would love to hear directly how you first connected with Rex and how you first learned about 9-star key. Yes. I think I talked about it in the beginning. Maybe you came a little bit late, but it doesn't matter. So I started studying Shiatsu in 98. I think about the time of my second son when he was born. And pretty soon my teacher, who is Rex's student also from Finland, was teaching us the 9-star key astrology. So I've been doing it in my work, in my Shiatsu training, and Rex has taught numerous times at our school. So that's how I've been working. And yes, I found it really, really helpful knowing the stars and now the new work with the child star, which I didn't focus so much on, but Rex just recently came to teach at our school about the child star.
Okay.
Do we want to go to the other child stars, or how are we with time? It's about
3 o'clock. So I don't know. We have Karen on the call. If she's still around, we can open up there you are, Karen.
Hello, Karen.
I sent you Rex her birthday, but maybe Karen, you can open up your mic and let us know what your birthday is and where you are in the world right now, because it says that you're on the Monacan land. I'd just be curious to know where you are.
Well, I'm in Charlottesville, Virginia. Karen is my given name, but and I actually swam in the Orinoco.
Wonderful.
Lived in Caracas for, probably 8 years of my life when I was young, and had a transformation in the Orinoco River. And not that many people you meet probably can say that. So I'm happy to be here. And it's partly what inspired Christiana to ask me. I said I'm on Monacan land just because I'm a master naturalist, and we do talk about the Monacan nation here which is one of the few tribes that was one of the first tribes discovered here in the new land, and that never got moved from, they were never moved off of their ancestral land, unlike, really 99% of other nations and tribes of the First Nations here. So that's why we do put that there, and we're working very hard to make a better relationship with that nation on whose land we are.
Sure. Thank you. And if I may ask, so what is the distinction that they had, that particular tribe had, that they never moved? Was there some aspect about their approach to life, or was there some aspect about their rituals that was different?
No, there actually is nothing quite like that. It's just that they tended to create their villages. We have a chief town very close to Charlottesville, but on floodplains of the James River or the Rivanna River. And all of their early occupations were covered over by floods. So they would just move to the highlands. But it's not a particularly ritualistic group as far as I can tell. Okay. It's mostly material.
Okay. But the river is the one that made the difference.
But the James River has been described as the highway to the early years of this country, as once it started being recorded.
Sure.
So
sorry, forgive me, because the 8-8 is already curious about these ancient things. Let me come off that. Let me just deal with the sorry about that, folks. But I guess you just see certain things when you're in these situations where people go with their questions. Okay, so your birthday, if I that's in June 1957.
Yes.
Okay, and you could mention the date in June.
It was the 10th.
The 10th of June. Thank you. All right. 1957 is a 7 metal star year, and June of that year is a 4 wood star. So the 4 wood star, which is your child star, which is where I'm going to, kind of chat about, the tone of the voice of your parents or of your teachers was a key aspect of your way of distinguishing how your relatedness with that person would occur. So sound and voices and just the whole aspect of like the atmosphere of the energetic atmosphere in an environment had a big impact upon you. And so very much like the wind with the leaf. So it's very much like you, like a leaf with the wind. You pick up on certain experiences, or you pick up on certain vibrations, and you can say a lot from just what you hear or what comes to you. And the capacity with your dreams, it can at times be prophetic. I'm not saying all the time, but sometimes you may have dreams which has nothing to do with your personal life or your immediate environment, but which may have an aspect of a global quality about it. This can happen randomly. The period between like 17 to about 24, 25 years of age was a very volatile time for you with a lot of changes. And yeah, going through some very challenging and difficult and lots of, change of directions and all of that. Any comments about anything that I'm saying so far, Karen?
I'm thinking about the tones of voice, and I wonder if that extends to spiritual authorities or spiritual spirits, in fact.
Yes, it for sure, it can have another area to it. On one level, on the mundane level, it has that aspect, but there's another aspect to the forward child, whereby its receptivity to the unseen world is very heightened, and this can have a quality of distortion for the child, especially if it was growing up if your childhood was one of a lot of conflict around you with your parents, or even with siblings. This can happen whereby you pick up on certain sort of other levels of receptivity start occurring for you. And some of that can be quite dramatic, or even with a lot of altered state experiences that you could have had.
Just the last part is relevant, but I did not grow up amidst a lot of expressed conflict.
Okay. No, I don't know. I'm my capacity to sense that I'm not. I was just kind of making it in a general term, but the forward child star has that, very inspired by poetry or by certain songs that can move you quite easily, or memories of certain types of plays or theater, or certain teachers, and what their quote unquote mantra, for want of a better word, is. Some of these things can have a deep resonance for you.
That is true.
Okay.
I have the signature of an artist in my
For sure.
astrological chart. Yeah.
No, the forward child star is very, carries very much of that type of energy of an artist, of a creator, of taking things and molding it into another way. Plus the capacity that you have with your voice to influence or persuade people is very profound. For you to be in some meeting, some environmental meeting, and you stand up or you say whatever it is you say, it resonates with people at a deep level. It's not just words, something else happens in the room. You carry that kind of authority. A 7-metal adult star also would be looking for the harmony, looking for better experiences in the environment. Greta Thunberg is a double 7-metal, the Swedish young lady with the environmental aspect. She carries a double 7. Marvin Gaye, with his what's going on his environmental song, he's a double 7. So the 7-metal, the aspect of the environment carries a lot for them. So that's more in the adult expression. I mean, the focus with this Orinoco is about the child star, although I will, as the community opens, and next year I will be teaching more about those other aspects. But yeah. So anyway, those are some things to share with you, that comes up for me to share. But I'm always learning, so maybe there are some things you want to tell me about that I haven't mentioned.
Let's see. I guess the only thing I would say is growing up overseas, and also being born into a family of left brainers when I'm a right brainer, clearly, or any way you want to put that, when I'm a creative spirit, I have never fit anywhere. I never totally fit anywhere. So that's my freedom, but it's also sometimes my burden.
The wind has taken you many places.
Mm-hmm.
The quality of also not fitting in can at times have like two parts that you are going in. One part you have you have it like a persuasion to go in a certain direction, but yet within that something else can happen for you whereby you go in another way too. So that level of spontaneity can be there for you, which I think now is in a stable place with yourself. But I think earlier on in your life, at times that could have been, you know, but I thought I was going to do that, but look, I'm doing something very different now, or whatever. I think some of those things might have gone on for you earlier on in your life.
I have had probably 5 different careers.
Okay.
And the last one was as a college professor, but
Uh-huh.
also have written, but also have sung, but also, yeah. So,
Sure.
but thank you for that. I'm not exactly sure how these things go, and I've never heard until today, really, until Christiana was telling me about it yesterday, a little bit about the star key, the 9 star key system. So I don't exactly know what else to ask, but it's very interesting reflection.
No, but you can ask anything because it's about life. It's not locked away somewhere else. I mean, like how I am talking about it or how I'm engaged with it, it's very much about making it present. It's an ancient system. And I just, you know, when the information started, the thing, I just connected with it. A large part of it is because of the 100% education I had in my life was from my parents. They could read the signs at 100% accuracy.
Wow.
All the time. And my mother used to tell me, she say, Rex, if you think I am good at this, reading signs, your granny was something else.
Amazing.
She was at another level. And
Well,
I'm the son of my grandmother.
mhm.
Influence of the
No,
old
I'm not, because when my mother was pregnant with me, she was the chief census officer in the war in Trinidad. And it's my grandmother who cooked for my mother every day, who, when my mother came back from, because she was working for military intelligence. So when she came back, quote unquote, from the war, you know, Granny was the one who would sort her energy out or whatever. She wore gold bracelets, 22-carat gold bracelets, and she would ring them. And yeah, she carried knowledge. She had 13 children. So I'm her son. Yeah, my mother carried me, but I'm my grandmother's son. So she's wired me up with these kinds of ways of linking, with these kinds of ways of looking at things.
This is what I meant about the question about spiritual voices, because there was a lot of esoterica floating around in the brujerias and lo que sea, you know, but I was a stranger, being blonde and blue-eyed. So I was always known when I was I couldn't hide. So I had to just ask questions. And sometimes there were answers and sometimes it was beyond, you know, my comprehension. But there was a very definite, I sort of have a feeling inside of the environment you're talking about and the atmosphere. So I do have one question, which is there a way to know in this year presently if anything is shifting? In other information I have, this coming year is one of shifting, a lot of internal directions. Or is there a way of knowing that that's reflected in this reading?
Karen, there can be, it's not an area that I have really dug into. I mean, so in my work with clients, with students, it is really about guidance. And it's really about emotional, psychological, how best to navigate certain things. So that is where my focus has been, rather than prophesizing anything or predicting. You know, I'm not really coming from any predictions, because I'm always of the view that with a clear mind and with a skillful way of living in life, if even quote unquote there's destiny ahead about an accident, there can be a way that it may not have such a big impact upon you because of your skillful way of living your life and creating harmony around you. So anyway, so there's that part. As regards what you're talking about a change, for sure. I mean, that's my sense. I mean, there's a lot of polarization in the world now, just without getting into any politics about that, but there's just a lot of polarization. But yet within that, there's something else that is happening. There's, like what we are talking about here, what we are doing here, the getting together, the looking at things in a fresh way. So a lot of that is happening, and certain friends from different places, when they speak to me about what they're observing around them, although there's a lot of challenges, they're also seeing like a kind of a new possibilities and new ways of engaging with things, and the leverage that quote unquote the areas of power have doesn't seem to have the traction that it had before, because there's something else that is happening that I can pinpoint that from this to say this particular star or that I can't. That would be, because it hasn't been, I haven't approached this topic from that angle. I've approached it more from health, well-being, family, children, mothers, that kind of, from that way. So I'm really, although it may seem strange, being a man, having led a mutiny, being in prison, being all of that, that I am now just dealing with mothers and children. It's my comfort zone because, my granny and my mother and whatever, they gave orders and I have followed the orders. So, yeah.
Generative, yes.
And Karen, I must say, and Rex, to follow up, Sarah put in a good question here in the chat, and it's also a good way to wrap up with Reeta, because I'd really like to hear. Let me read Sarah's question, and then I'll finish with how we can ask Reeta the same. Which she's saying, Rex, as a 3-child star, I can really emphasize with that sense of change in my early life. And it feels good, Karen, that over time you have found your passions. Is there something, Rex, that you have found can help us 3 and 4 wood child stars to continue to create more harmony? And she also mentioned that there's another 3-child star in the group tonight. So engaging in this, the whole point of the Orinoco Flows is to have simple rituals that you can support your child star. And I don't know what you would lend to Karen and the 3 wood and the 4 woods, as well as Reeta. How did you find supporting your child star of your own children, if that was beneficial to you, just by knowing what their child star was? So it's kind of a double-fold question there.
But let Reeta go, and I will come back to Sarah's question about the 3 and the 4. But let's kind of, if that's okay.
Yeah.
That's fine. Well,
Thank you.
actually, I have 3 boys and 1 daughter. And then my daughter is a 7-4. That was really interesting, Karen, because everything. So, and it's fit her 100% nearly.
Wow.
Things and, everything. She's the wind. And ever since she was small, she could sense everything. She sees prophetic dreams. And they're sometimes scary because she sees whole movies and they happen later on. So her artistic side, and to support her artistic side, it helped very much with her. So, because she's a 7 adult, and that's also the more artistic metal, how I see it. It's kind of like, celebration, and she's got a lot of that in her as well. And then my second son is a child 7. So they're kind of like, connected together. And he's a 2 adult, number 2. So that was interesting that was my child star, and that was his adult where he was going towards, and it was challenging for me to give him food, which is a thing about the number 2. And then my third son is a child 9, and my adult child is a 9. So he was very fiery, and it was really like very easy to connect with him. And I understood that when he had its tantrums, it was just the fire shooting up. and he changed into number 1, which is a very peaceful yin water. So I was following them when they were around 17, 18 and seeing the shifts. And definitely I can say that, you know, it really worked with all of them according to the 9-star key. Yeah.
Sure. Thank you very much, Reeta. Sarah, the aspect of the creating of harmony for the 3-wood and the 4-wood, the aspect of allowing yourself to have spontaneity about life is important.
Could I just say, Rick, that there may be another 3 in the group that I think Lynn is here actually, and you may like to link in with her and just make that connection.
Sure.
Yeah.
Hi, Lynn. Yes, so the 3-wood and the 4-wood, there's a slight distinction. The 3-wood, the aspect of the enthusiasm and the bursting forth, it's very much like the daffodils coming out of the ground. So there's that quality of energy that needs to be acknowledged and honored. Of course, in some situations, it's difficult to act that out. But nevertheless, when that moment comes or whatever, to respond to that and to give yourself permission to do that is very important, because one of the things with the wood child, especially the 3 in this situation, would be the aspect of don't do this, don't do that, don't. If they grow up with a dominant don't aspect, they tend to have issues with their joints, their knee joints, and things with their spine and all of that, because this sort of repressive atmosphere causes health problems in their childhood. So this part of the 3-wood child having to kind of run in the yard, to shout, to just celebrate life. It's not so much that they are looking for attention. They're just celebrating all this energy that is part of their being. So that is important. And if they are in some situations where that is not quite easily available, to express it, be it in art, or to express it, be it in dance, or express it being in some creative thing, it's important. And in a way, it doesn't have to make sense to anybody else either. Okay. All right, I'm jumping to a man now in the thing I need to. Okay, when we look at Picasso, carries a 3-wood child star. And Picasso's art, it's, you know, these sudden things that he does and making these lines and whatever. Okay, I'm not a art critic or explaining it I guess in the jargon that they use, but you see these kinds of quick movements, and they have some YouTube clips of him doing a painting in 5 minutes, the speed at which he does it. That's a 3-wood. I mean, it's just like, you know, rather than, no, I take my little time and do this, and no, I do that. No. It's like speed, fast, impulsive. So you see that. The 4 is with the voice. The 4 has to express themselves with their voice, be it sing, be it shout, be it whatever. I mean, so giving room to their voice, and their voice can also be their writing. So yeah. Anyway, I think I'm talking to myself at times.
No,
Sorry.
that was wonderful. And thank you, Reeta, just for showing up here and sharing such a profound story and really carrying the essence of what we're trying to accomplish with the Orinoco Flows community, and that is supporting women and helping them find and discover their child star, as well as know the child star of the members of their family, so they can be supporting and play the role of the nurturer. So I really appreciated that. And I don't know, Rex, if you're finished or not, but as we wind up, I know we were going to end sharing a movie clip that Greg, your cousin, made that's in honor of the Orinoco flows. So I'll just give you here a minute to wrap up, and then I can play that as people are winding down on the call.
Okay, but maybe I don't know if anybody has any questions from the group outside of what, has popped up so far. Otherwise, I will sort of start closing off, and also mentioning what will be coming in the next session that we have. So anybody has anything they wanted to say? It may not be questions. They may just want to shout.
Yes, is very, very interesting, and just like, wow, okay, there's so much. Thank you for everything. The meditation was absolutely beautiful. I got to flow and float and had a guide showing me what to do. So thank you so much for the evening. It was wonderful.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
And
Thank
very
you.
interesting from Karen as well. Beautiful. Thank you.
My pleasure. My pleasure. Okay.
I might shout for a moment, Rex.
Okay, go ahead.
Just for a moment. Yeah, I just get very excited just to see everybody gathering, and it's just a great joy for me to see everybody here, and the depth of the sharing is very touching. Yeah, I had a feeling just to put it out to the group. I know it's our wish and intention to have a gathering, perhaps with people that work directly with birth and mothers, and that's very much in my heart. And it's in a way, just to say at the very beginning, why I came back to Rex to, in a way, instigate and welcome and create this wonderful group with Christiana as well. So it's exciting for me to put that out there in the space tonight. And yeah, and just wonder, just if we could have a show of hands or a feeling if there's others that may like to join and engage with that. Yeah.
Oh, and I'll extend my hand, Sarah. I know that we've been discussing, if anybody wants to put up their hand, that we're going to be doing a gathering probably the 3rd week of January, somewhere around that in the new year, of people who work in the pre and perinatal field, are just interested in learning more about how our imprints and challenges that we face when we were children are affecting us today. So that's a lot about the intention of doing this gathering. And I know we wanted to extend an invitation to you, Reeta, especially with your work, to, if you're interested, we'll be sending you more details, because we would love to have you a part of that and hear your insights.
Yeah, I just love the international component of this. It's like all the beautiful rivulets coming together. It's tremendous.
We have some people in the chat there, Sarah, do you see? Okay. We will definitely send out more information. And just as a tidbit, we've now added to the Orinoco page website a way that you can join a newsletter or join our Facebook group, which is the Orinoco Flows community. You can also find us on, our Facebook page in the flow. But if you join any of those groups or sign up to the newsletter, you'll receive announcements of events and gatherings that we're doing, as well as just information, content that will give you more access to how you can discover what your child star is and how you can go about nurturing your child star. So that's all coming in the flow of the Orinoco, and we're really excited with how far we've come so far. So thank you everyone for joining. Rex?
Thank you, Christiana. And so next Wednesday, I chat with a young lady, Birgit. She's the mother of 4 children from 2 to 14 years of age. She's a doula, massage therapist, and she was going to share what she has observed with the children and their star numbers, and also when a whole area of conflict happened when her partner left, what then went on for her children and how things started to shift. some of this I learned from her by, her just sharing. I didn't realize it would happen in such small environments with just a small time. So I'll be chatting with her, and she will be sharing also some observations that she's seen with different clients doing the massage, the kinds of character and all that. So I think there's a lot that I will be learning from these real life experiences. So look forward to having you here next Wednesday. That would be kind for you all to participate.
Okay, now go
And
ahead.
here is Greg's music and what he has done for us. Thank you, Christiana. Thank you, Reeta. And thank you, Christiana.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Thanks so much. Amazing.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank
all.
you, Sabine.
Beautiful.
Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.
You have so
Bye-bye.
much
Thank you,
more to
Reeta.
share, Rita. I look forward to hearing more with you. Lovely.
Bye. Nice
Bye,
to meet
everyone.
Bye-bye.
Yeah.
Night, night.
Bye.
Good night.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye bye, and thank you so much.
Thank you, Sabine. Bye.